Thank you for joining us for the Doña Ana County Commission debates. I'm Fred Martino. We also want to give thanks to the Greater Las Cruces Chamber of Commerce for being our partner in this big series of debates we've had all during election 2012. The rules for our debate are really simple. We'll alternate between Chamber and KRWG questions. The candidates will have 60 seconds to answer, and they should not mention their opponent in that answer. We begin with District 2. The candidates are Democrat David J. Garcia and Republican Janice Brooks. And our first question is from the Chamber and Chamber Chair Richard Haas.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia, because of our available land, moderate climate, and proximity to the border, the Southwest is very attractive to businesses looking to relocate or expand. What is your plan to improve the overall quality of the workforce and create new jobs in Doña Ana County?
Well, I think with that we have a real true opportunity in the Santa Teresa place with Western Union. We have commerce, industry, all buzzwords that will bring jobs, and I'm very interested in that area. And one of the points that I'm interested in is it is called the Doña Ana Airport, and those infrastructures are very important, such as road, but we must not forget air travel. And the other day we flew over the district, and I was amazed how poorly that airport has been upkept. There's weeds, and I think we need to pay a little bit more attention to that, because that's going to bring a lot of economic development to the area in southern New Mexico. And I think that's going to be a hub for trade, and very important.
I believe that county government is responsible for simplifying the regulations that would improve the business climate in this area. We have a lot of opportunities to bring things in, but the permitting process many times is very, very slow. And the mentality of many of our departments is one of enforcement rather than assistance. And so I believe that as a county commissioner, if we can improve that process, that will make us more business friendly. And in that way, then jobs will come into the area because businesses will feel that this is a rich environment.
We live in the desert with a very limited water supply, yet we have few restrictions on development. Should we consider restrictions, yes or no, and why? We'll begin with you, Janice.
My main focus for many years has been water rights. As a pecan farmer in the South Valley, and prior to that in Cloudcroft, we had water rights that are pertinent to the land in New Mexico. I have strong reservations about putting restrictions on anything. Water rights are a commodity that can be bought and sold. I think developers should take that into consideration, that when they buy the land, they should also purchase the water rights that can be applied to that process. But I want to see freedom continue in this area with as little government regulation as possible.
You know that water is going to be one of the most precious commodity that we have, especially when we have drought conditions. And in fact, I was speaking to some people in the Anthony area where the homeowners just have a regular well, and then you have pecan owners that have big powerful engines, and that water table drops dramatically to where people won't have water just to live on. And I don't think that we need to put restrictions on water, but we have to be very careful on how we manage water, and that's going to be very important. And right now there's a lot of litigation about water, about how much water the Rio Grande carries down, and but we also suffer those same kind of issues in areas like Chaparral, where the water table's down to 800 feet.
Great, thank you. Dr. Garcia, infrastructure provides benefits to the community as a whole while providing a major economic boost to the region. What are your infrastructure priorities for the county?
Well, I know that one of the most important things that people mentioned as I go around talking to people in District 2, and that's jobs, jobs, jobs. And it is very important that we have those infrastructures like rail, air, roads that will improve that. But I think that a real opportunity is knocking at our door with the Santa Teresa port, and also with bringing in a hospital. I happen to be a patient of Dr. Nichols, and he's been proposing a hospital for a long time. We gotta, as a commissioner, you gotta bring those ideas up to the forefront and make it a political thing so people know about it. And I think that is very important, those kind of things.
I believe, of course, that roads. Most people who come to county government, their first demand is roads, roads, roads. We have a lot of dirt roads in the county, and I think fair application of the resources is necessary. But when I look at some of the things that I've witnessed when county departments come in and bring in sand rather than gravel on some of these dirt roads, it just continues the problem, and it's a waste of money and the resources. I do not believe the county government is responsible for creating jobs. I think that, again, I'm going back to the simplification of regulations, fair and equal treatment of all of the people, but when you live on a county road, then county services are necessary. When you live on a private road, you shouldn't expect other people to bring yours up to county standards.
If elected, what key initiatives would you propose to improve management of the county?
Good question. One of the things that I've found in my career with the federal government and also with private business that we've owned and operated is that a lot of times you have ideas off the top of your head, but until you come in and meet the people who are in charge of the departments and meet the employees and all, I don't think it's a good idea to come up with, I'm going to do this and I'm going to cut back on this and I'm going to reduce this and reduce that. I think as a county government, we should look at all things, but we should look at it from the standpoint that we have an existing tax base. We should learn to live within that tax base, and we should allocate resources in a priority manner.
The Board of County Commissioners is a policy-making board. Management and taking care of the county belongs to the faculty and staff and the people that work for the county. The board makes the policy, and there's the administration that enforces that policy. I think that one of the things that we need to look at is to have a good mission statement and a vision statement, and then set our priorities and then bring resources. But on the other hand, I do believe that the county needs, just like a regular person with a normal checkbook. If you don't have the money, you do without. So what do? You kind of build that checkbook or the money in the checkbook so that you can have that money to spend. The county has more money, then therefore they'll be more able to provide the service that are necessary to the people in your county.
Great. Following up on our infrastructure question previously, many see impact fees as another form of taxation. What are your views on impact fees in the county to fund new infrastructure needs?
Well, I think that it is important, but like a lot of people have stated, we're kind of overtaxed, and sometimes those taxes, the people feel those taxes. So it's very important to kind of really think about those taxes and how they're going to impact the people. And I think that that's very important to do.
I'm one of those people that think impact fees are just another form of taxation. We have county funds, we have departments already there. It's through our taxes that we're already paying for those departments, for those employees, for that equipment. When we put or assess an impact fee, the excuse is used that only the people who use that service will pay for it. But it normally starts out by increasing additional county government employees to implement those things, to take those charges, and it's just a further level of bureaucracy. I am against impact fees.
If an increase in taxes was proposed for another project like Spaceport America, would you support it, yes or no, and why?
As a general rule, no, I am against additional taxes of any kind. There are always exceptions that could possibly come in, but I think something like that is a private business, that there are enough people out there that are willing to fund that without government getting involved in it. I realize we can pass bond issues and all of those things, and many times what people vote for keeps coming back and back and back, and then suddenly it becomes implemented and the county starts paying out for services like that. But as a general rule, no, I am against county getting involved in private enterprise.
I would say no, and but I think that the Spaceport America is well able and is going to be one of the resources that we're going to have, and just like Western Union and all those other, that's going to bring a lot of resources to the county. And like I said a while ago, the more money you have, the more able you are to spend on services for the people.
One of the main impediments to business is overregulation and cumbersome bureaucratic processes. What is your plan to make Doña County more business friendly?
I think that what we need there is to have an open mind and try to recruit as many companies as we can, so that that we create jobs for our people. And sometimes we have outside companies that come and work in the state of New Mexico and the southern part of the state. I think that we need to employ, and of course they will say, well, the skills are not there. So then we should have the community college and other institution that to bring more skills and more education so that we're able to do that.
Overregulation is a hot button issue for me. I was president of the Otero County Planning Commission, which was appointed by the Otero County Commissioners. And in that, I was responsible for subdivisions, approving or disapproving, going through all of the regulations, making people cross their T's and dot their I's, and going out and review the plans. When we moved to Doña County, I discovered that Doña County has much stricter regulations than the state requires. And I think that's an impediment to bringing business into the area. From that standpoint, I would like to see, if I am so fortunate as to get this position, if the people hire me, that we would start reducing regulations in this county. I would like to see politicians across the state get rid of regulations and red tape.
Do you support affirmative action in county employment, yes or no, and why?
No, I don't. And the reason is because I believe that we began this nation with the concept that people were free to achieve and strive for excellence. I think that we have had a history in this country of oppressing people, but we've come a long, long way. And Martin Luther King said that we should judge people on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. We now have achieved, I think, President of the United States. We have congressmen, congresswomen. We have people in all levels, from industry down to local businesses, that are of every race, gender, and I think it's time to judge people on the content of their character.
No, but I think with that, everybody needs an equal opportunity in order to succeed, especially when it comes to jobs. We live in a nation that we have been doing very poorly because of the economy, but we are apt to do better if everybody has an equal opportunity to get a good job and be able to take care of their families.
The Antiquities Act of 1906 states in part that lands owned or controlled by the government of the United States shall be confined to the smallest area compatible with proper care and management of the objects to be protected. Do you believe it is necessary to designate 600,000 acres, including more than 25 lineal miles of sensitive international border with Mexico, to protect the Oregon Mountains and the Desert Peaks?
That's a very good question. Those pieces of property and real estate need our protection because within lies our history about our culture, and I think that sometimes as a community or a society we abuse certain rights, and one of the abuses is the abuse of land, and we need to take care of what we have, because one thing is for sure, that we have certain territory, and that territory is just like having a certain piece of land. People are growing every day, and those things are going to be of great value, and we need to take care of it.
I'm against the establishment of another wilderness area. I went to a forum that was held at the Farm and Ranch Museum about a year and a half ago that was put on by the Retired Border Patrol Association. They talked about the one in Arizona. They had rape trees. They showed that motorized vehicles and law enforcement were not allowed into that area, and it became a drug haven. I think we have more federal land in New Mexico than we need without establishing even a greater amount.
This will be our final question. Should local or state law enforcement check the immigration status of people they question? Yes or no, and why?
If they are stopped for another reason and there is some reason to suspect that they may not be citizens, I have no objection. My son is a retired police detective from El Paso, and I think law enforcement has a responsibility to the safety of all of us, and I have no objection to them asking the citizenship. I have no problem announcing what my citizenship is, and I don't see why any other American would feel the same.
I've always been against racial profiling, and I think that our police force especially in the state of New Mexico have improved, and I don't think that we have to fear about that. So, but I think that the worst thing that can be done is when the police abuse that their policies, and I think that it is important that we are very careful in not conducting profiling of certain people.
Democrat David J. Garcia, Republican Janice Brooks, running in District 2. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for having us here.
Appreciate it.
We continue now with District 4 for the Doña Ana County Commission, and the candidates are Republican Robert Jeska and Democrat Wayne Hancock. Our first question is from Chamber Chair Richard Haas for Wayne Hancock.
Wayne, one of the main impediments to business is overregulation and cumbersome bureaucratic processes. What is your plan to make Doña Ana County more business friendly?
Well, I believe that there's efficiencies that can be gained within the departments, and the county is currently underway in producing a strategic plan that will guide all departments in better efficiency, and those efficiencies will yield efficiencies for the business.
Mr. Jeska.
The major impediments to business anywhere is overregulation and taxation. And when businesses are overregulated, it reduces their efficiency. Small businesses have really three commodities. They have their own time, they have their own money, and they have their ingenuity. And when government oppresses businesses with overregulation, it removes time and money from the equation. And when I'm county commissioner, what I intend to do is commission a group of citizens and county officials who will eliminate the duplication of rules and the overlap of responsibilities that exist. It'll improve the efficiency of the government, and our small businesses will be the beneficiary.
Mr. Jeska, we live in the desert with a very limited water supply, yet we have few restrictions on development. Should we consider restrictions, yes or no, and why?
Well, of course we should consider our environment. We're in a semi-arid environment. We get about 11 inches of our rainfall a year. It generally falls in July and August and September. So we should be mindful of the development's demand on resources like water. But we should do sensible things like trying to conserve the rainfall that we do get. Other cities in other places install aquifers, or they install they make holes that catch rainwater, recharge aquifers, and it goes a long way to solving our stormwater problem at the same time.
I'm glad you asked me this question because this is my favorite subject. Ever since I've been in Doña Ana County, I've been really interested in reclaimed water, and I've been working very hard to be sure that the reclamation plant that we spent $10 million for starts putting the water back to use for our community. The city has now started to do that, and I think that that's where we're going to find real efficiencies between reclaimed water use and the proper use of that water by the city and its functions, and by using the proper control of the developers so that everyone is cooperating together to save our water.
Great. Wayne, infrastructure provides benefits to the community as a whole while providing a major economic boost to the region. What are your infrastructure priorities for the county?
I have three major priorities: economic development, public transportation, and our roads. We have 4 colonias in District 4, and they all have needs for their roads within those areas. I believe that improving our roads and the systems for putting in our roads will help us to improve economic development. And by everyone working together and understanding that we all have to give a little bit, I think that we will see rewards very quickly.
In my view, infrastructure should be defined by the needs for public safety. That is the primary reason that government anywhere exists. If we have roads that aren't traversable by emergency vehicles, that's a problem. If we have stormwater that floods our homes and deteriorates what pavement we have, that's a problem. So my priorities would be repair of roads, stormwater control, and that which public safety first responders need in order to protect the safety and welfare of the citizens.
If elected, what key initiatives would you propose to improve management of the county?
Primarily budget discipline. We have a 500 and some odd page budget in the county that is wholly unintelligible to normal people. It is not a management tool, and as county commissioner, I would insist that the budget be understandable and not a collection of opaque factoids that do not permit anyone to manage. That and establishing clear priorities for the expenditure of taxpayer money will, I think, in a large measure, ensure the fiscal discipline that we should have in any government.
I'm really strong on the strategic plan. I think everyone needs to know where we're going to go and how we're going to get there, and cooperate with each other in utilizing the resources that we have available to us as efficiently as we possibly can. I believe that there are efficiencies that can be gained between the various municipalities working with each other to group buys, make purchases that we all are going to be using, or reduce the duplication of services that we're providing. And I believe by those reductions will benefit overall.
Wayne, the state legislature approved initial planning funding for the Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch Authority complex last year. What is your plan to complete the new Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch complex?
We'll take the consultation of the consultants that we've hired, and we will examine the 7 locations that they will present and evaluate those. The consultants have experience with the DoD, Homeland Security. They know the kind of place that a emergency center should be located in, and they'll look at what is available and give us their recommendation, and we'll consider that.
Our current emergency dispatch authority exists on a floodplain downtown in a ramshackle building that costs us more to maintain than it would if we were to build a new structure and save what it takes to maintain this old building. Wayne's right. The county is proceeding on the proper path. It's just taken 6 years to get there. We should be taking the advice of these consultants that the county has hired to determine the proper siting for this building that we'll share with the city. The city will staff it. The county, by law, is responsible for properly siting the emergency call center.
If an increase in taxes was proposed for another project like Spaceport America, would you support it? Yes or no, and why?
Like Spaceport America? Well, that's a hypothetical question. I don't know. I am fundamentally adverse to taxation because I think taxation removes money from the private sector. So it would have to be an awfully good idea. I favor the spaceport. I wish we could move it off dead center. I understand that the spaceport has had problems determining liability on litigation for an inherently dangerous undertaking as going into space. But I guess the answer to your question would be maybe.
It would certainly be dependent upon the project. If the project could clearly produce economic benefit for everyone in the community, then it would be high on my priority list. But it would have to really show positive effects, and positive effects quickly.
The Antiquities Act of 1906, which is the basis for the proposed wilderness, states in part that lands owned or controlled by the government of the United States shall be confined to the smallest area compatible with proper care and management of these objects to be protected. Do you believe it is necessary to designate 600,000 acres, including more than 25 miles of sensitive international border with Mexico, to protect the Oregon Mountains and Desert Peaks?
The answer is yes. The proposed Antiquities Act that the President will probably sign is the least intrusive of the 3 proposals. And it is my belief that the community will be able to, and the United States of America, will be able to protect one of the most valuable assets that our community has. And I'm all for that.
The 600,000 acre set aside is the most extreme version of the 3 alternatives, and it inherently violates the Antiquities Act for the reasons inherent in the question that you ask. It is unreasonable to apply the Antiquities Act, which, as you point out, Richard, is for a small area, and compare that to a 600,000 acre set aside. I furthermore disagree with the process by which we are where we are today. I'd like to see this brought up for a vote. It hasn't passed the Congress in the last 6, 7, 8 years that it's been attempted. The proclamation is merely a workaround to do something that can't be accomplished by public will.
Okay. Do you support affirmative action in county employment? Yes or no, and why?
Well, absolutely. I'm not quite sure where that question even comes from. Affirmative action is a state federal law, and as officers of the county, we would be duty bound and honor bound to apply all laws appropriately and judiciously.
Yes, affirmative action is an important asset for the county, and it should be preserved.
Okay, Wayne, what is your plan to improve public safety throughout the county?
Discussion right now among those who are concerned about public safety is revolving around the lack of communications between the commission and the sheriff. Years ago, it was proposed that the commission and the sheriff get together periodically and discuss the needs and discuss the issues that were important for public safety. It was done briefly and then kind of went away. Not sure why that happened, but we'll be bringing that back, I'm sure.
As I mentioned earlier, public safety is the primary reason that governments anywhere exist. Sheriff Garrison, his budget annually is 95% of it is consumed with salaries and pensions. He's got 5% left for the purchase of equipment, for training, for acquisition of training new people. And as a result, he has to go out, and this might be a shock to some people, the sheriff has to go out and get grants from other taxpayers around the country and around the state so that he can buy equipment and material and training for the sheriff's office. I think that's scandalous. And if I'm in county commission, I'll ensure that public safety is fully funded.
Should local or state law enforcement check the immigration status of people they question? Yes or no, and why?
I think they should. I'm a part-time peace officer, and I've been out on patrols, and it's a dangerous thing to be out by yourself in the dark somewhere, stopping someone of unknown origin. If a police officer has probable cause to suspect that someone is in the country illegally, they should be asked for their identification. I've been in situations where the driver can't even speak English, and so they're a hazard on the roadway. So yes, indeed, their immigration status ought to be validated with probable cause.
No. No. When we take the civil rights away from anyone, we all lose. It's very, very important that every individual be respected. We need the Hispanic community to be engaged with our law enforcement so that they have the faith that they will report crimes and be witnesses to crimes that they do observe without any fear of being persecuted for their national origin.
And Mr. Haas has our final question.
Oh boy. Many see impact fees as another form of taxation. What are your views on impact fees in the county to fund new infrastructure needs?
Well, there are no impact fees in the county, and I've not heard of any proposals for creating impact fees within the county. I think we would have to analyze any proposal that may be presented if it does occur. I believe that if there is new infrastructure required, someone is going to have to pay for it, and we'll just have to analyze that when it does come up.
We do have impact fees in the county in those areas under the jurisdiction of the city. Impact fees are taxes, and it makes the housing more expensive because those fees have to be passed on to the home buyer. And what it does is also puts the government, the city government in this case, in the position of building those roads and providing that infrastructure. And I'm not convinced that the city has the ability to do that. So I think it's an all-around extremely bad idea, particularly when fees like this remove capital from the marketplace and put it in the hands of the city, in this case, but in government in general.
And we thank the candidates in District 4, Republican Robert Jeska and Democrat Wayne Hancock. We move on now to District 5 for the Doña Ana County Commission, and the Republican in the race is joining us, Thomas Austin. The Democrat was invited but was unable to join us. Our first question is from the chair of the Greater Las Cruces Chamber of Commerce, Richard Haas.
Thomas, one of the main impediments to business is overregulation and cumbersome bureaucratic processes. What is your plan to make Doña Ana County more business friendly?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting this and KRWG for putting it on, and for giving us an opportunity to introduce ourselves so that they can see that we're more than just a name on a signboard. My name's Tom Austin, and I have a face. And a lot of times we just see the signboards, but I appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself and let the people of the voting public see who we are. The question you'd asked was, what do we intend to do to make it easier for small business within the county and within our district? That question should be asked of the business community. I have 16 years in the public sector, and I have 16 years now in the private sector of owning a small business and in private sector employment. But the question is, we need to ask the business community that question. What is it that we can do to make the environment easier for small businesses to conduct commerce and to run their businesses and make a profit?
Simple question to start from me and KRWG. Why did you decide to run for the county commission?
Well, that's a good question. I had ran for this position when it was District 1 and got defeated in the primary by Mr. John Zimmerman by a small margin. I wasn't going to run this time. Kent Evans was the Republican nominee for this district, District 5, and we were fully behind him and supporting him with everything we could. Unfortunately, he passed away a little bit before the primary, and I was nominated and voted on and I accepted that nomination.
Thomas, what are your top 3 priorities for the county?
The top 3 priorities for the county. One is we got to balance our budget. We're deficit spending. They don't call it deficit spending because we're spending our savings account. But we got to stop deficit spending. We can't print money and we can't borrow money as the county other than through bond issues and bond selling bonds. Top priority within the county is, after meeting with the Sheriff's Department, we need to fully fund the department, the Sheriff's Department, and we're not doing that within the county. We need to make sure that the private sector, small business, is the burdensome regulations. We're going to find those, I'm going to look for those burdensome regulations, find them, and in some cases eliminate them if we can, and we need to reduce taxation and the unnecessary fees that are on the private sector. It's the private sector that provides the money that we receive to run our county government.
What are your key qualifications to serve on the county commission?
Well, like I said, I'm a lifetime New Mexican. I graduated from Artesia High School, joined the Marine Corps, came back here, got a Bachelor of Science in Engineering Technology from NMSU. My first job was working for FEMA, actually Department of Public Safety, is 100% federally funded by FEMA. Came back here and I worked for the city of Las Cruces in the engineering department for 7 years. After that, I had resigned that position in 2000, I believe it was. I bought Putt-Putt Golf and Games and Tracks, the Family Fun Center, and converted that building to Genesis Child Development Center. Since then, I've been an engineer. I've owned 3 or 4 other small businesses. I'm a guide now. I've owned an outfitting business. I understand what it takes, and I understand the burdens that are being faced by small business. But with 16 years in the public sector and now 15 years or 12 years in the private sector, I'm going to bring that perspective to the county commission.
Thomas, infrastructure provides benefits to the community as a whole while providing a major economic boost to the region. What are your infrastructure priorities for the county?
The infrastructure priorities, when we take your property tax, you expect to have your roads graded, especially up in my region of the valley, up in the North Valley in Region 5, in District 5. We got a lot of dirt roads up there. We just recently had a meeting with the homeowners association who had turned their road over to the county and it's not getting adequate maintenance. When we take your property tax and you pay your property tax, all of us within the county, we expect to have the infrastructure maintained and built. That's what we pay for. What happens within government, great ideas come to the county commission. They may be great ideas. They may be wonderful ideas, but is it for the county government to fund those? And when we fund all of these great ideas and we start paying for all these great ideas within the county commission and within county government, infrastructure suffers. I know that from working for the city, okay? We had a huge payroll, but we had no money to fill potholes. That doesn't make any sense. We have to stop that within the local government.
We live in the desert with a very limited water supply, yet we have few restrictions on development. Should we consider restrictions, yes or no, and why?
Water will restrict that, right? I mean, if they don't have water right, I don't understand how they can do the development without the proper water right through the state engineer's office. If the city has the water right and it's not being used, first of all, we got to understand the difference between water right and wet water. You may have 1,000 acre-feet of water rights, but you only have 400 acre-feet of wet water. You still got to have the water, right? There's a lot of things within our county, like for instance, with Elephant Butte near an EBID. Well, that water there is used for irrigation. The groundwater rights is something that we need to look at. And if we're going to use the EBID water, then we got to acquire it somewhere. Somebody owns that water already, right? So I don't understand how without the water, how are we going to continue to develop? First of all, and another thing, within this county, we've got 15% private land and 85% public land.
Okay.
The Antiquities Act of 1906 states in part that lands owned or controlled by the government of the United States shall be confined to the smallest area compatible with proper care and management of these objects to be protected. Do you believe it is necessary to designate 600,000 acres, including more than 25 miles of sensitive international border with Mexico, to protect the Organ Mountain and Desert Peaks in a wilderness area?
It's completely unnecessary. It's totally unnecessary. And the Antiquities Act itself of 1906, if you'll read the act itself, the idea of putting 600,000 acres around the geological formation that they want to protect, or the historical sites that they want to protect, is way out of bounds. The Antiquities Act itself, and I understand through an executive order that they can be signed into law, and that's what the monuments come from. One of the issues that was brought up at one of the meetings with the county commissioners and with the city council was that nothing was going to change. Well, if nothing's going to change, why do you want 600,000 acres of wilderness or monument, right? You got to know the difference between the monument and the wilderness. Even in the Escalante monument that Bill Clinton signed into law, I think it was 2 million acres in Utah, already the ranching community and the agriculture community are being bombarded with lawsuits already, even though they said that nothing was going to change. So we're very concerned with 600,000, 25% of Doña Ana County being put into a monument.
If elected, what key initiatives would you propose to improve management of the county?
What key initiatives to improve management of the county as far as the county manager goes?
Management of the county, not necessarily a specific employee.
As a county commissioner, we are a policy-making body. Are you talking about that management position as a county commissioner? The only legislative side that we have as far as managing.
Let me rephrase the question. Are there specific areas where you could see improvement in the management of the county?
On our county commission, that's why I'm running. And I disagree with the direction that our Board of County Commissioners is going, in that we're running these deficits year after year. As far as management goes, as a policy-making body, I will not get down into the county departments and try to micromanage those departments. I won't do that.
Okay, Thomas, the state legislature approved initial planning funding for the Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch Authority complex last year. What is your plan to complete the new Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch complex?
How many years have we been bouncing this ball around? A long time. We know we need a 911 call center. We know that. And our responsibility is, the government's responsibility in my thinking, is police protection, fire protection, infrastructure, and we got to fund our courts. But we have to have that 911 call center. We have a 911 call center now that is falling apart. We've been hashing this thing out for I don't know how many years now. And the monument proposal that you just asked, that was imperative that they get that pushed through in just a matter of weeks. And they voted on that in just a matter of weeks. And yet we still can't make the decision on how to get this 911 call center done. We must have a 911 call center that is efficient and effective and meets the needs of the community. We've got to fund it, and we've got to build it.
Do you support affirmative action in county employments? Yes or no, and why?
No. Affirmative action in that the affirmative action says that you can't discriminate against anyone for any race, religion, or sexual preference. That's anyone. So when in the sense that we pick and choose based on race, in my mind, we're violating the intent of the law, right?
Thomas, many see impact fees as another form of taxation. What are your views on impact fees in the county to fund new infrastructure needs?
I agree with you completely. Impact fees are nothing more than a tax that is passed on to the end consumer. And what that does, it discourages development both in the residential side and on the business side. If I'm a business owner and I'm looking for a place to start a business, I come to the place with the minimum startup costs, and I look for that place. If you'll go down the I-10 corridor, as soon as you cross into Texas, you see business after business. Why is that so? There must be a reason why all the business owners are building just on the other side of the Texas border. We need to find out why they're doing that. American RV left Tell Shore and went just on the other side of the Texas border. It must be because of the regulations and because of the undue taxation and the undue fees. If we put these burdens on initial costs of development, then we'll never benefit from the long-term benefits of the employment and all the other revenue that's going to come into the county from that business or from that development.
Should local or state law enforcement check the immigration status of people they question? Yes or no, and why?
They ask me that every time I go through the Border Patrol. They ask me for my nationality. So I don't know why if we have someone that is stopped and local law enforcement, I know that it is a very divisive subject, but if local law enforcement has the idea or suspects that someone is breaking our local, state, or federal law, they take an oath to uphold that law. So I don't know, when they ask me for my nationality, why is it wrong for them to ask any American their nationality?
Because of our available land, moderate climate, and proximity to the border, the Southwest is a very attractive place to do business. What is your plan to improve the overall quality of the workforce and create new jobs in Doñana County?
That isn't my job. My job is to create an environment where the private sector firms can create that quality workforce and create jobs. When I hear a politician say that they create jobs, they don't create jobs. They create bureaucracies. They create bureaucrats. And the whole role of those bureaucracies and those bureaucrats is to come in and enforce a legislation. Many times it was unnecessary. Many times it doesn't do anything to improve the quality of life or to improve the safety of the public. The private sector creates the quality workforce. The private sector creates the jobs. Government creates an environment where the private sector can do just that.
Thomas Austin is the Republican running in District 5. Once again, the Democrat could not join us for this program. Thank you so much.
And thank you again for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us for the Doñana County Commission debates. Thanks to our partner, the Greater Las Cruces Chamber of Commerce, and of course thanks to you, our members. Your financial contributions make local, in-depth news and public affairs possible. You can become a member or renew your membership anytime at KRWG.org. The 2nd District Congressional Debate is coming up next after a short break. Have a great week. Thanks for joining us.